What's going on, everybody? Welcome into our latest TDR Trade to Black podcast presented by Dutchie. I'm your host, Shad Dales. Well, we saw sentiment waning last week in the cannabis space, but then we get a video from Truth Social and President Donald Trump talking about the effectiveness of endocannabinoids. He talked about hemp and he talked about cannabis as well. So he didn't, but the video did. But with that, it's endorsing cannabis. So how does this change the overall conversation around cannabis reform? And really, as we always say, what comes next? Important to know as we bring in Michael Bronstein in just a moment to talk more in depth about this, as well as some interesting news regarding Village Farms, some voter confidence for shareholders as a buyback is in place now, plus a domino effect. Senator Bernie Moreno says, what comes first? Rescheduling, banking second, and we could see a domino effect. So finally, some members of Congress and a senator talking about what we've been alluding to the last couple episodes on the TDR Cannabis and 5, how we believe that rescheduling could be momentum building for safer banking. So we'll get into all that, but first let's welcome in AV here on a Monday. And like I said off the top, we saw some sentiment waning late last week, and then bam, Sunday afternoon, we get this video, and then suddenly, man, what a day it was for MSOs and for the industry. Really, got some interest back in the buying side, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was an interesting video yesterday evening that came out from the Commonwealth project. Donald Trump reposted it on Truth Social. There were a couple accounts that posted it on Twitter. I mean, I'm kind of going to pat myself on the back here with Tilray being up 60% on the day and leading the rally. I think it traded 360 million shares and was up 60% on the day. It's a liquidity machine.
That's wild.
Really, I mean, it was nice to see. It was great to see the rest of the names kind of follow and get some wind in our sails. I mean, MSOX was above 11 not too long ago, and it was down to 6 as of pre-market or after hours yesterday.
45 million. MSO.
This just adds to the data points that point towards some form of cannabis reform coming in the near future. I mean, I don't think it changes the calculus of anything. It's just once again Donald Trump acknowledging cannabinoids, cannabis, and the related products, and that it's there. The thing that's interesting though is the video alludes to, and the Commonwealth project alludes to, wanting to get cannabinoids in the hands of senior citizens under the umbrella of Medicare. That would be interesting. That would be groundbreaking for the United States. I don't know if we get there, how quickly we get there with being able to have medical marijuana covered by Medicare.
Yeah.
But the Commonwealth project is ran by a very, very wealthy individual out of Florida, from Palm Beach, that is apparently very close to Donald J. Trump. And also the Commonwealth project was a proponent to the rule in the ALJ hearing around rescheduling. So it is a friendly party. And despite them mentioning hemp-derived CBD and hemp in that video, if you go on their website and dig around, they talk about rescheduling a hell of a lot across their entire platform.
It definitely woke up the industry. I'm just reading that 365 million trading volume and up 60%. Like you've said, this stock could move more so than any other stock in the industry. And it is a liquid machine.
Yeah, it's a liquidity
CDC
machine.
Trade 120 million, 1 million shares, all-time high. Was that an all-time high, Irish? I thought they traded more than that back in a couple of years ago, but that could very well be. MSOs, 45 million volume. It was up. How much was it up? Was it 30%?
MSOS, I think, finished up today 26%.
528 close.
Yeah.
Good day for cannabis investors, and great to have everybody here. Mohammed Shaheen, yeah, what a game last night. Everybody have that in their bingo card that the Packers and Cowboys would end in a 40-40 tie? That was quite interesting. But let's jump into our first topic. Let's start with Village Farms, ticker symbol VFF on the NASDAQ, one of the most talked about cannabis stocks over these last 6 months. They announced today a $10 million share repurchase program authorizing buybacks of up to 5% of their outstanding shares. Company expects to close Q3 with $75 million in cash. That's notable because back in June, they executed major acquisitions that really fortified their balance sheet and added a lot to their cash reserves. And now on top of that, they're pursuing, let's say, these international expansions in Holland. So big takeaway here. It shows a lot of confidence, I think, in the company. And like we've said the last 3-4 months, Anthony, this is a stock that is absolutely ripped. And this is, $10 billion. It's some people that say, hey, is it a lot? It's a fair amount. It's a decent amount. But the end of the story, if you want to bring this all together, is it shows confidence amongst the board and for its investors that they announced this today. So onwards and upwards for Village Farms.
Yeah, 10 million is a good sizable chunk. Stock responded very well today. VFF is up significantly. The company is just going up and up in the right direction. They've got a lot of momentum in Europe. They've got a lot of momentum in Canada. They'll get some momentum in the US potentially in the near future. And I mean, the buyback just shows that the board has a vote of confidence and they're using cash in a strategic manner. $75 million in cash on the balance sheet, allocating 10 towards buybacks. That'll essentially be 5% of the company buying back. I mean, I'm all for that, especially as the company fundamentally is just looking really nice moving forward.
Well, when you look at this stock, as we said, it's moved sharply over these past 4 months. And you have to ask yourself, does this buyback add yet another layer to the valuation story and potentially extend the momentum that we've seen? And I can't see why not, especially if we get some news outside of this. But with some of these stocks, and we've had Dan from the Chart Guys on the last couple of weeks, but some of these stocks that trade on senior exchanges, Tilray, another example, they are really benefiting from being trading on the NASDAQ over these last few weeks. And it's a good thing for companies like Village, even SNDL, High Tide. They're seeing some, they held their ground. They traded sideways, as Dan for the Chart Guys had indicated to us. And then bam, pop, you get an announcement. And this is what you see in a day like today. Like a lot of these companies that trade on senior exchanges like the NASDAQ are seeing huge days in volume, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty big move today. I'm curious to see how there's continuation or what tomorrow looks like. I mean, this is a pretty big move on no real direction, just being real. I mean, he reposted a video that talked about cannabinoids. He didn't come out and say that he's going to fire off an EO on Thursday to reschedule cannabis.
Yeah.
I would hate to say I would hate to see what happens if and when the actual announcement hits.
Tell me
this
about
is pretty. I mean, 50% up 50% on MSOX just off of that last night. It's a big move.
It's wild, actually, when I think about it. I know a lot of people want to downplay, like, how these stocks could move in a rescheduling announcement, but it's very important that you have, in a lot of ways, the president endorsing, a different form of medication, talking about the history behind and the drugs that are being used and how, in a lot of ways, I've got to remember exactly what he said into detail with that video about how endocannabinoids work within the actual body itself. But it's pretty telling when you have a sitting president endorsing something like this. And like you said, if there is an actual announcement, what it does expectation wise and how these stocks will perform, because like you said, this is important, but it's nowhere in comparison to an actual rescheduling announcement.
Yeah. I mean, they're a coiled spring. I mean, they've come down from the momentum that we had a couple of months back on the heels of him commenting that it's something that they're looking at, and they're going to look at it in a few weeks. A few weeks, as far as I'm concerned, elapses tomorrow, end of September. So we'll see how it goes. But this is just another swing at the momentum machine. I'm not going to complain. It's another data point in the right direction. Hopefully we can get something bigger and material here in the short term, but we'll see.
MindMed and drug, they also had some nice days. Thanks, Irish. MindMed, MMMD.
Yeah, MindMed was up like 10-15% after I saw.
Was it?
What was going on? Yeah, had a good day.
David Benz writes, but he also said the Venezuelan fentanyl boat out of the water, and they reset some of the enforcement parameters for cannabis. Breadcrumbs. Gord writes, when you had Dan on and he said that senior exchanges would move faster, I bought Tilray. Thanks, TDR. Glad you found that information helpful. Also, what I found helpful today was that Senator, and we talk about domino effect, Senator Bernie Moreno, sponsor of Safer Banking, mentioned in a recent interview on how to move banking legislation forward. In his view, rescheduling is the prerequisite, further explaining that it clears the political space for banking protections passed, which is telling, very telling. We've been saying this a lot. So he also warned that if Congress tried to push for banking first, the effort could get bogged down. And this, in a lot of ways, is what we've seen, Anthony, over the past 4 or 5 years, where cart before the horse. But really, at the end, rescheduling, as he said, comes first. Banking comes second. So I guess we'll know what it really means and how it looks on the other side if there's a rescheduling announcement. But this is welcoming news, knowing that we've heard whispers out of Washington that a lot of these lawmakers will view this differently. And now we got an actual backing from a senator who's a sponsor of safer banking that believes that too.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's somebody coming towards the light who's had negative takes on cannabis in the past. It's great that he's backing safe. It's great that he wants safe to move forward and that he's adding to the conversation. But I mean, like I said Friday, we have a very dysfunctional government, both in the House and the Senate. Show me, get it done. I'll believe it when I see it in terms of legislatively reforming the industry. Rescheduling, we're very lucky, is not a legislative issue. It's an administrative issue. Otherwise, I think we'd be looking at it through a very different lens than we are right now. But he's correct. Rescheduling will set the tone and hopefully start to knock down dominoes in the right direction with safer banking, states 2.0, greater reform. It gives them cover fire that they're not getting behind in supporting a Schedule I narcotic. That is true. But from the standpoint of sitting here and saying that, yes, just because he's talking about safe, we're going to get safe done. And yes, it's great. This time it's different. Like, I don't buy any of that until it actually is on the floor getting votes and they get the damn thing done.
Well,
as far as it relates to confidence in legislatively getting anything done change wise.
Well, the hopeful thing is like you said, maybe these people will view things from a different lens. And as I said, rescheduling first, banking second. Let's see where we go and game on, because all we want is progress. And if that's the case, then we go into a new chapter of this industry that we've talked about, we've kind of predicted, we've speculated, but now that we're in there and we could be in it, we're going to really find out how this really develops. And that's a good thing, because standing still is something that this industry, not from a fundamental standpoint, but from a reform standpoint, has done for quite some time, and it's overexhausted itself. But you can see how sentiment goes super high end of summer. We don't get the announcement, we think, at the end of August. Then it starts to get a little sour for the next 3 weeks in September. We were here on Friday. Big Mike was even saying, I think if, like, strategy wise, we don't get an announcement until 2026 leading into the midterms. I'm not saying everybody heard about that, but people start thinking about those sorts of things and get a little.
I think it comes quicker. I think it comes quicker than that. I do too.
Like, you got to build off this momentum. It doesn't make sense to.
I would like to be a fly on the wall and understand why he posted what he posted yesterday. I would like the context to be there, which obviously when he just reposts a video, we can just sit here and draw lines and points of correlation to it. But the motive behind what he did and the reasoning behind what he did is really something that'll tell where we're going.
Well, let's face it,
from a reform angle.
I think he likes to control the narrative. I think he wants to have this come out of left field and take a lot of the attention. I don't care. But you got to wonder, back last fall when that story came out, he had to come out and answer some of the questions in that presser back on August 11th, knowing that a few days before that, there was the story in the Wall Street Journal. And, if I was a betting person behind the scenes, that's probably something that he just wants to lay low and do his due diligence to make sure the timing's right. And for a story to come out like that, did it sit well with him? I don't know. But, put it this way.
No, it didn't.
He's not going to buy in to the Wall Street Journal doing a story. He's going to do what he wants to do at any given time. But this is why I keep saying some of these moving parts. 600,000 vapes, in Chicago. What was that, 2-3 weeks ago with Pam Bondi and RFK Jr. All these moving parts have to build the case to possibly regulation. And first step is rescheduling. But you're going to say, he did not like that when that story came out, right?
No, he didn't. I mean, there was essentially a Florida politics piece that was written about that leak, basically very quietly saying, shut up, whoever put this out there. The administration was not happy with that leak on the CNN, WSJ article about the dinner that prompted the question.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's in the rear view. I don't think it left truly a bad taste in anybody's mouth or did any sort of damage towards the process. But yeah, I don't think it was perceived very well at the time, from what I've heard.
We live in a world where news from 2-3 weeks ago becomes old real fast. And that's what we do. We move on. Big super chat commitment and donation here today by Gary, $19.99. Thank you. Appreciate that. Anybody else feeling generous? Want to keep this podcast going as we try to survive here? I know a lot of people a little gripe about some of the membership stuff that we're doing. But again, just a reminder that we're going to have all the content we're producing so far is still free. And if you want some premium content, feel free to subscribe. Matt Carnes, analyst, coming on later this week. We're going to be talking with an attorney where Anthony is that used to work with the IRS, and it's all about 280E. So if you want to learn more about that, make sure to subscribe to our TDR membership premium content that gives you an outline of some of these insiders and takeaways. So it could be a good angle later to learn later this week with an IRS attorney and how they view things in the event that there is rescheduling and 280E goes away. So if you haven't done so, and if it interests you, greatly appreciate it if you want to subscribe to that. All right, it's time for Insider's Edge. It's Monday. Arns, let's roll. Monday afternoon. You know what time of the week it is? Our best friend of the podcast. Let's welcome in the president of the American Trade Association of Cannabis and Hemp, Mr. Michael Bronstein. Good to see you. And did you have that in your bingo card that Trump would come out with a video posting about the benefits of endocannabinoids on a Sunday afternoon? What'd you think? Did you get a chance to see the video?
I saw the video. Look, I think that it's a real shot in the arm for the argument that this is going to happen and it's going to happen soon. We've been talking about scheduling for a while. I just don't see how you would, as president of the United States, post a video like that without having that sort of in the right frame of mind. And the administration has, to their credit, done a lot in terms of trial ballooning some of their policy, some policy prior to. And I think that this is sort of part and parcel towards that line of thinking. And the other thing is that there's going to need some time to get other people who are around in politics socialized with what this position is that would be coming out, because any type of scheduling is going to fundamentally, I think, alter public opinion as well as politics too. It'll reinforce the idea that what we all know and what most of the public knows, but there is this subset of the public that does not know, that cannabis is medicine, and that it is not a Schedule I drug, despite it being scheduled that way. So I think that this this certainly adds fuel to that. Obviously, the market's reacting to it. We're talking about it. But more than that, it's gone into mainstream media as well, this discussion. And remember, when it goes into mainstream media, it's just a very important touch point for being able to make policy and shape public opinion.
Yeah, I got to ask, should we interpret this as a political direction or more of a strategic political framing, or is it really both?
I wouldn't separate one from the other with the way that some of these decisions have been made. I think that they go hand in hand. And I think that the better a policy decision is, and the more political support that it has, the more likely it is to get done. And I think we've seen that time after time. And in this case, that's something that we're all hoping for. And the Trump administration has taken some positionality on this, and we've heard from the president himself, hey, watch out. We're going to be talking about this soon. And I think this is another marker that's out there.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's a chance that the Trump administration is doing what the Biden administration did and just talk about it and act like they're actually going to change things, and then just kind of have complete inaction and actually don't get anything done. But at the same time, they talk about it and they give off they give off the perception that they are changing and palatable to cannabis. Because I mean, we saw the Biden administration literally talk in the past tense that they rescheduled cannabis and reformed cannabis when they in fact didn't do anything. Or you really think this time we get a home run here and it actually happens?
Usually when people are talking about the Trump administration, it's not inaction that's the thing that bothers them. Okay, it's the amount of action, how fast and furious the action comes, and whether or not it regards what has been put in place before it.
Yeah.
On this issue, that works in the industry's favor. And I don't really think that they're sitting around trying to figure out how they're not going to act on this and just gin up public opinion.
Yeah.
I think that they're there making a decision about what it is that they're going to do. And remember, at the end of the Biden administration, Biden said, was taking credit for having finished the job essentially.
Yeah.
Correct.
We all know that the job wasn't finished.
Correct. They literally said they reclassified cannabis.
Kamala too.
It was in writing. They reclassified cannabis.
That's
pretty
what they said.
embarrassing. Pretty embarrassing.
But
that's the reality of the Dems. The Dems are disconnected everyday people. Like, people could find this information and read about this stuff in depth online, and it was far from it. But to Anthony's point, I think he's looking at things where, yes, there's a lot of hope off of this announcement. We have to look at things from all different angles right now. But we always hear President Trump is a man of action. He's a transactional person. I believe a video like this is like very telling. If anything, people want to know timing of it all. You're not going to have the answer to that. Anthony isn't. I'm not either. But do you not believe, like, I heard some rumors last week, this could get pushed out to 2026. But if you make a video post like this in September, I would think it's got to happen at some point this year to build off that momentum. No?
Let's get one thing straight, because we've said it a couple times, myself included now. Trump did not make this video. This video was created by a think tank that wants to push medical marijuana into Medicare. That's done by a very, very wealthy Trump donor in West Palm Beach.
Fair enough.
That he reposted. The administration did not make this or create
the administration not put this, but he put it on his platform. That is
correct.
That's huge.
I think that there are also questions when you watch the video itself. What's it politically trying to accomplish?
I was confused by the video because it mentioned the Farm Bill, it mentioned hemp-derived CBD, and then it got into medical marijuana. I think in the last 2 minutes with a Brett Baer clip, it was all encompassing. I think it was kind of sequentially showing the progression, I guess, of the industry and where they want to go, which would make sense because you could really make an argument that it kind of started with CBD as far as mass appeal goes, and now we're going into medical marijuana, if you're reading the tea leaves. But, I mean, from a comms perspective, I mean, I was even just a little confused. I had to watch the video a couple times and then go over to the Commonwealth Project's website and start to, like, dive into everything to see what they're really about. And then I found out that, they're also a proponent to the rule in the rescheduling, in the ALJ hearing, which gave me a lot of solace knowing that they're backing amendment schedule 3.
Anthony, do they back the hemp space at all?
I couldn't tell by their website, no. But they mentioned it in their video. I mean, it's hemp-derived CBD was there from a semantic standpoint.
And the medical side, I mean, I guess the point is that it wasn't entirely clear, right?
Correct.
Like, and the more that you know about the issue, I think the more confusing, like, the takeaway could be if you actually know what that is, right? But the reality is that even if it was a lane, right, for CBD, that would be a big deal because there should be a lane and there should be FDA. And I think that the video argues that there should be FDA lane, all right, for this type of thing. Yeah. And that's something that's been argued since the 2018 Farm Bill. And that's something that Congress is looking at right now. But I think specifically the context is around medical. And I think that the context also is around rescheduling. And if there has been, when you look at the other things that are being discussed that are, that are around it. But I think that the point here is that, there could be a very big change on the way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that necessarily that things are being thought about holistically. They might be thought about on an incremental basis as well. Yeah. But rescheduling is what some consider an incremental reform too. I mean, which we would as well. It is. Scheduling doesn't, right? Rescheduling does a lot of really important things, but it doesn't legalize, cannabis per se. But it's a very, very important step.
Well, I know it was confusing. One thing I did get, though, I thought it was somewhat of a subtle shot at Big Pharma. I agree with Dankenformer here. It's a shot at Big Pharma and how the endocannabinoid system has been neglected, hailing it as a breakthrough in medical science and throwing pharma products under the bus. I don't know if throwing under the bus would go that far, but if anything,
well, I mean, they threw.
It just goes to show whatever you've been doing so far or lately does not work anymore. And there's other options that are tremendously more effective, judging by that video, and how we definitely need to be re-educated and open up our eyes what this current administration is all about right now. So that to me was telling. And I think how this plays out, I have no idea, because Big Pharma has big checkbooks. And when it comes to the 11th hour, who knows how this plays out. But one thing's for sure, the conversation's just getting warmed up, which is great.
Yeah, but it wasn't such a big knock on Big Pharma. It was a knock on the institutions of medicine. I mean, in this country, they were saying that we have a system within our body that reacts to cannabinoids in a certain way, and it's been completely neglected for decades. It's not studied. It's not taught. It's completely just been bastardized. Meanwhile, cannabinoids synergize with our bodies in a wellness state and in a medical state, and they've just completely thrown that out the window. The fact that they anatomically called out the endocannabinoid system, as well as kind of took the pure medical angle as to how these things interact with the body and how we need to look more into it, also kind of makes me think that they're going to go way further with the Make America Healthy Again angle here.
Yeah.
And they're going to try what I've heard from everybody, whether it be lobbyists, lawmakers, cannabis executives, the administration is trying to build a big tent here. They want to bring in as many people from as many walks of life to normalize this thing as much as possible.
Yeah.
So bringing in the medical professionals, the law enforcement officers, other people from industry, making that giant tent so they can normalize this and reduce blowback to a minimum is going to be paramount.
I think it's more than even reduce blowback. I think it's capitalizing on it and having their traditional supporters, or even they know that the more conservative that the electorate skews, there's certain portions of that group that are still buying into some of the old arguments around cannabis.
Yeah.
But the difference between sort of the Trump administration and the Biden administration, and to some extent the strategies that they have around them, is that Trump really does sort of have this natural sense that he can change public opinion with what he does.
Yeah.
Whereas Biden looked at public opinion and then would say, this is the way that the wind is blowing, and so that's the way we're going to go. Those are two fundamentally different ways to look at public opinion. All right. And not everybody is in a position to change public opinion in that way. Trump is, okay, because Trump sits at that nexus of kind of like being involved in culture, okay, and also having sort of, like being involved politically. All right.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, how it's actually a rare combination where you would see that. But in this, he's kind of tapping the culture. I mean, I would argue almost like Obama sort of in his first administration tapped the culture. All right. It was kind of cool. He was in.
But he changed. He changed. It didn't take long for him to change. it's the difference between, I think, a career businessman versus a career politician. Plain and simple. I just think they've been crafted a certain way for decades, and this is the difference as to what we're saying. And as the everyday people, we're fed up with this. And whether you like it or not as to what they're doing, what I do like is that they're living up and backing up everything that they campaigned on, which is about making America greater again, as far as her healthy again. And look, this is, jolling up and rupturing the system as to what the status quo that we've seen for quite some time. But the reality is that maybe the change isn't necessarily a bad thing. And I think this is what they're trying to open up people's eyes to. Not very subtle. They're very confrontational towards it all. But, at the end of the day, it just comes down to science. It's interesting. There are some benefits. So just reschedule the damn thing and let's see where we go from there. I think that's just
and I know we talked about Sam last week, but Sam's already posting studies. Luke was reposting a study today about cannabis use causing autism disorder in pregnant women. So they're already shifting their narrative and shifting their language to last week's flavor of the week, which there's plenty of studies actually that are proving that prenatal cannabis usage does not have any sort of link to ASD. Potentially perinatal cannabis usage does have a potential link to ASD, but they're going to spin their language and they're going to try and go after that here probably in the next couple of weeks, and capitalize off the autism wave that's coming out of the executive branch.
Shout out to our viewers in Morgan, Shay Sanders. Good to see you. I don't think I've seen you on this live stream comments before, but great to have you. Pete V says, well said, AV. Wolfie's on here today. So is Jason. Well, we got some big names here this afternoon as the all is well in the cannabis space after that announcement and the way the markets performed here today. I want to go back to my question. Yes, Donald Trump didn't make this video. It was Commonwealth that did. But getting back to my point, no one knows timing wise, but if you had to look at this from a 64,000 foot view or $64,000 question, 40,000 foot view. Sorry, I got those mixed up. But when we look at this, does this make sense to build off of this momentum and get an announcement sooner rather than later? Like, I can't see this going into 2026 if we see something of this significance. And I don't want to build it up and over sensationalize it, but this is big as a sitting president talking about endorsing in a lot of ways new forms of medicine, meaning endocannabinoids. You got to build off of this momentum, right?
The president himself said weeks when he was asked the question about rescheduling. Right? We're seeing this, right? So there is this sense of timing, and the expectation, by the way, is not us guessing.
Yeah,
They've created that expectation. It's been said. Okay. And then with a video like this being done, I mean, I think one of the reasons why you're seeing people reacting the way they are is that it matters. Okay. Like, these things actually matter to this administration and to the way that they communicate. So when you see them communicating in their own language of how it is that they are likely to do this, that most people are going to take as a tell. And if we look at some of the other policy positions that they have taken and how they've rolled them out, right? Some of these more niche policy cultural issues have started out like this. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that, to them, not to us, but to them, is the cannabis rescheduling issue. Okay. It's not it's not immigration. Okay. It's not name X issue that they're talking about right now. It is sort of one of these issues that is surrounding them, that is floating in the ether, that is the niche policy issue that they can latch onto to be able to make the argument. And I think that they completely understand that. They understand what they're doing with this argument.
Well, Anthony made a good point, and I don't want to go back to how the markets performed in that focal point, but today we looked at this announcement. We saw the markets performed. But in the event we get a rescheduling announcement, we talk about how popular and how much attention this is going to get. I don't think we really understand how much attention it will get and how much this will actually spread across the country. And I know we talk about this being a fringe issue, but if someone were to ask you, Michael, how big do you think this will get in the public eye and the public view once an announcement is made, what would you say?
It's front page news.
Front page
Yeah.
news.
No, it's front page news. It is front page news. It's front page news of every major newspaper throughout the country. And for all of our things that are issued, because you're moving, that moment will in fact be a moment where there's a before and an after.
Yeah.
Not just for industry, but for policy around this in general. All right. And I've said, look, a lot of this, there's a lot of other things that go on in DC. There are a lot of other, this is a breakthrough moment.
Yeah.
Right. It really is. It's a breakthrough moment. And once that moment happens, the politics are going to change. You're going to see on the ground, you're going to see states that haven't legalized yet talk about legalizing that they need to legalize. You're going to have you're going to have more of a discussion around what happens around public markets and cannabis. Now, remember, this is all of this stuff happening when really we're moving from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3.
Yeah.
That's what happens. All right. But it's such a bold admission from the US government in something they haven't said before, which was like when Biden, was proposing the rule, which is that cannabis is medicine, something that we have known for years and years and years and years.
Yeah.
Finally, the government is telling us that they acknowledge that. All right. Yeah. It's profound. It's a complete change of where we're going. And I think a lot of that thinking is going to change at that moment. And that's why we're seeing something like this covered the way that it's being covered. All right. And the moment that changes, front page news.
I think it's another example as to how the Democrats are completely disconnected with everyday people. Because yes, they started the conversation, but I don't think they truly understand how popular this would gain as far as approval ratings. And when you look at President Trump right now, yes, you can factor all these things into play. But let's face it, he is the type of guy that probably more so than anything wants to steal an issue from a Democratic Party, don't you think?
Yeah, but Michael, in that, just out of curiosity, in that vein, do you think that if Kamala rescheduled cannabis, she would beat Trump in the election?
I don't know. I don't think it's that. I don't think that it would.
No, I don't think. I agree with you. I don't think it's. I don't think it's that big.
So I think that the issue. So from an electoral issue, the difference is that this issue gives Trump more than it was going to give possibly somebody else. Kamala Harris, I think most people thought she would be for it anyway, right? Biden, the thing that would have helped Biden is that you had somebody who was older, who was in a demographic that mostly skews against, it skews against legalization, older demographic now, right?
So let me refrain it. And I hate to say it, but this has a couple hypotheticals. If Biden was not cognitively dissident and was running for re-election and rescheduled cannabis, do you think he could have beat Donald Trump?
Michael, answer that question now.
I will say, could Biden, the first Biden, have beaten Trump 4 years younger? Yeah, he could have done it. Okay. But that's not a hypothetical.
Here's the reality.
That's just truth, right?
Here's the reality. President Trump, biggest self-promotion person, ultimate salesman. I think he just amplifies the cannabis story because he's the one that's behind it. And we could be the beneficiary of getting an announcement made and making this, as you said, Michael, front page news.
It'll be everywhere.
It doesn't matter how it happens. It matters that it does happen.
That's it.
Right? I don't care why someone does this. It doesn't matter their motive as to why they do it. As long as they get to the right answer, it's fine.
Did you see the heading that Anthony and I talked about before you got on? But Senator Bernie Moreno saying this is a domino effect. When you look at other bills like safer banking, we've alluded to this. We've talked about it. Not sure, but when you see a senator and a sponsor of safer banking, you talk about certain states that are on the fence right now of actually bringing in cannabis programs once rescheduling is announced. Do you mean more on the medical side of more states or even the recreational side as well?
So I think the recreational side, you look at Pennsylvania, I think Pennsylvania could go, right? I think Virginia, like the argument is really, bolstered, right? I think the conversation that you're having around even expansion of medical in some places. Yeah, I think there's going to be a different level of acceptance. And the way that moment happens too, it's going to be really important that as an industry, we capitalize on that moment and what that moment means.
Yeah.
All right. Because if we claim that moment, it'll show a real shift. And I do think that the media is ready to report on it like that, because it is. It's the culmination of so many things that have happened in the states already. It's a culmination of policy that has already changed. All right. It's an acknowledgement of what the electorate already knows, that the government has been so slow to change.
So you think if rescheduling is announced in Washington, this could be kind of like the last yard that gets you the first down in order to get recreation and the adult use program passed in PA?
I think so. I mean, as an Eagles fan, we haven't had that hard of a job finding first downs.
Man, guys,
right?
look good. But
good. You know, I think that this is something that could. I definitely think that this is something that could push that. I think in a lot of different states.
Yeah.
Like, look at this video. This video is talking about insurance for what's essentially a medical marijuana product. Yeah. Why not?
Save $64 billion a year, right?
Trump's been going after Pharma. Trump and RFK don't like Pharma.
And if I was Pharma, I wouldn't like this video necessarily the way that it called out Pharma. Like it says, imagine if we shouldn't, we don't have those rules.
So what I don't understand for the life of me is Pharma have vast resources compared to this industry. If this is something that could be so revolutionary and it's something that could be so complementary to your business that you could just be an 800-pound gorilla and curb the market, why not just lean into it? Just embrace it. They've got the power in the lobbying. They've got the power in their business. I mean, they could own this industry if they wanted to with a snap of their fingers.
But
they spend billions of dollars on things just to shelf them.
I get it, but you look at Anthony. We had Christian Egermeyer on a month and a half ago or 2 months ago, and he talked about the commercialization once a lot of these trials and psychedelics comes out, and how they don't want to sell their company outright to big pharma. They'll help for the commercialization, but they obviously want to have their hands on when it comes to the research. When I read that, obviously there's a perception of big pharma and the road that they've gone down for such a long time. Is it as easy as, I guess, Anthony said, like just diving into this and embracing this versus trying to combat it? Or do you think there's chatters behind the scenes where people are neglecting big pharma at all costs, which is why they haven't jumped in?
It's not big enough, and there isn't a clear enough lane for them to jump on that, right? And I think that the lane thing is an actual thing for them, because when you look at something that's approved by FDA, there's a process. There's gating of the intellectual property as you're going through that process. So, like, what company are you going to buy right now? I mean, there's a lot of risk from an intellectual property standpoint, and also, whether the thing that's being done would fit under the FDA parameters to do that. So, I don't really necessarily think that you're going to see that type of play. But there is, I think you see going forward, I think you will see research around it. I think you will see other things, but I think that's further into the future.
Yeah.
And right now, probably what we're looking at here is more of a wellness play. You're looking at companies that are around FDA that are more like, dietary supplement companies, things like that.
Correct. Right? The nutraceutical.
Yeah, nutraceutical industry, right? And they've taken a lot of interest in this. So
I try to go to my way to have conversations with people that are in their 20s and how they view life and alcohol. Every single time I get this conversation is that they don't drink and it's all about health and wellness. They're tracking their calories. Like when I was in university, like think about this. When you're in university, how much health and wellness was at the forefront? I'm 49. So totally different. Maybe you, Anthony, because you're in your late 30s. But I just think the whole complexion has changed dramatically. And if this is the way the alcohol system or ecosystem is right now, it's not gonna change, because the health and wellness momentum is only going to get increasingly bigger and louder as time goes on.
People want to be able to go to the gym, right, and not feel like what they feel like when they drank alcohol the next day, what that feels like.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a thing. And look, cannabis, it's not, the devil's lettuce, but it's not Boston lettuce either. Right.
No.
Like there are some, there are some issues that like anything else, that happen. What we want is, we want to have it in a safe environment. We want adults to be able to make that choice, and we want people to have access. And
Yeah.
I think that cannabis follows that line. It follows the trend line of what people are looking for right now in their lives, what they want from a social interaction in ways that other things don't. Right. And, you had people who are, smoking for certain reasons, 50 years ago. You have people who are drinking alcohol for reasons, right? And now you've got cannabis, which fits into what I think is a future forward moment for how people are consuming.
Yep. Well said. Well, let's channel all this in. What does this mean? You think this video that was released, where he, as he said, like, endorsing in a lot of ways cannabis, endocannabinoids. I'm not saying Donald Trump, but his platform did. Commonwealth put the video together. But by placing this on Truth Social, what does this do for the industry? And again, it just furthers the narrative as to what we've been talking about in these rumors around cannabis policy reform, correct?
Yeah. It kind of bridges the discussion to the mainstream again. Like, one of the things that we've seen with like the level of excitement around the industry, the ebb and flow of it. And we watch the markets here on this show, and we know like the ebb and flow of where some of those things have been. The difference is that when you have when you have a mainstream moment, it breaks through that glass to have a talk about mainstream moment. The more that happens, the more cannabis is going to be accepted more widely, and people understand that this is a moment of cultural change.
Yeah. You brought up Emma,
that's the most important point. It's cultural, societal shift.
That's it.
Yeah.
You see it everywhere. And some of these kids aren't necessarily kids. Like, they're between 20 and 25 and even 30 and early 30s. Like, they're not kids. They're like people that are getting married with children, and this is exactly the lifestyle that they want.
Well, kids shouldn't be using cannabis. Period.
I realize that. I guess when I use the term kids, it's like they're adults, young adults, but I sometimes forget I'm not 28 anymore. I'm 49 years old. It's a little bit humbling. But when I look at people that are 25, 30 years old, their lifestyles have changed drastically. So anyway, all in all, a good day.
The way they view it has changed drastically. But this is part and parcel of that. Okay. So I think that you're going to see that, and it's consistent with the shift that we've seen, and we're finally seeing it. Legal change is a lagging indicator of where people are about an issue. All right. It's actually the last thing to happen, not the first thing to happen when people are changing their opinion. All right. So when we start seeing movement like this, I think that that there's been an appropriate reaction today about excitement going forward about what this could in fact look like, or what this in fact means. And quite frankly, people should remember the energy that they have today from when we're fighting the hard fights that we have that are still before us. And that's important to remember.
One last thing I'm going to ask, and this is a question for both you guys. You talked about PA and rescheduling being kind of that last yard to get it across as far as adult use. Do you think the same thing applies when it comes to Florida?
No.
No,
I don't. I think the 60% hurdle is high. Ron DeSantis does not want it. The hemp people are against it. The own people in the medical market, medical operators in Florida, the medical card issuers were telling people to vote no on Amendment 3. Like, it's going to take probably a legislative move in Tallahassee to get adult use cannabis done. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope it gets momentum, and I hope 2026 rolls around and Amendment 3 or whatever the new amendment is going to be gets passed. But I genuinely do not think that it's going to pass in 26. And I don't think that rescheduling shifts that political calculus whatsoever.
You agree with that, Michael?
Just being real.
You agree with that, Michael?
I think it'll shift enough. So the problem that we had was amongst some of the more conservative voters. I think that there will be a shift. I think there will be a shift. Is it enough to get to the 60% threshold? Like, I think we'll see. But I do think that it's fundamental. I do think that public opinion changes. Like, it doesn't change. Like, you feel like it's incremental and it stops and then it goes all at once. Right.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of the way it works. And by the way, that was the first. All right. Like, also on ballot initiatives too, like most ballot initiatives, even if you look at like cannabis ballot initiatives, it's taken a couple times for them to pass.
But if we're being real, Amendment 3 failing, a lot of the language that really impacted people to think the other way didn't really have to do with cannabis. It had to do with the monopolies that were writing the legislation. And I'm not going to call companies out by their names, but they were directly impacted by by companies' association with the language in the amendment that are doing it again a second time around. I don't think it was reefer madness or it was DeSantis saying, let's not turn Florida into California. I think people were swayed as it was just a nefarious amendment, which I don't think it was. I think it was written very well.
What was the total? Was it 56% that voted in favor?
56.3%, I think, was the exit.
Michael, do we know that extra 4%, what that translates into data-wise as far as numbers?
Remember, we do, but remember that, you also had issues going on in that election around cannabis and hemp.
Yeah.
Okay. You are as some have pointed out, right? I think that there was also in that cycle, there was sort of a pull down of where some of the votes were that would have been there. I remember watching the election night and looking at a couple counties in particular going, all right, there was undervote there. Had there been more of a vote there in a couple different places, that it probably could have gone. So to me, it's just fundamentally different, and it's very hard to poll. I just know this from working on amendments. It's just very hard to poll those things. It's much easier to poll candidate races.
All the polls were polling above 60% before election night. Like everything, like it was like the USF poll. The FAU poll, Tom's right completely, and that plays into the calculus of why I don't think it's going to pass, as those dynamics are greatly shifted during a non-presidential election year. I mean, and I don't want to be like just shitting on people's shoes here. I hope it passes. But, I mean, we were very, very bullish about it passing the first time around. We thought it was a lock to the point where some people would say that we were cocky about it. And, I mean, just knowing what I've known and learning what I've learned, it's going to be an uphill battle getting it done in 2026. And I can't see anything that's telling me that overly it's going to happen this time around.
All of this is going to be an uphill battle. We're looking at what we're trying to change. We're trying to change, like years decades of bad policy.
Correct.
Right?
DeSantis wanted to even increase the threshold to above 60%, just in light of these ballot initiatives going on to the out there for the vote.
The turnout might be even more favorable because during the presidential election, Democrats stayed home in Florida. That's another good angle. They did too. All right. We're getting a few people.
It's not what the turnout is, it's who turns out.
We're getting a few people here. They just want to see Anthony smile once today. So let me see that big old smile, Anthony.
You know damn well I'm not going to do it if you say so. So we can just move on to the next part of the segment.
Anyways, this has been good talks, good takes by both of you from all angles, and some great comments, and a big shout out to everybody with all these super chats here today. Really appreciate it. And
the chat's been popping off today.
Yeah, it's really awesome. All good things happen when we get good. It's amazing how the sentiment just changes so quickly. And
rising tide lifts all boats, and every time Trump talks about cannabis, it
I know, right? Listen,
Tilray will keep moving.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Machine is going to just keep on chugging along.
Anybody that wants to get a hold of you, as far as a lot of these reform changes and how you can help, maybe quickly let us know how they can get a hold of you, Michael.
hit me you can do the info at ATACH.org, which will make its way to me, as you can see on the bottom.
There we go. Always great chatting with you. And yeah, hopefully the old annual MJ Biz event, which is not for a couple more months, but man, how epic would that conference be? And I'm going to encourage everybody, if you got time for a couple of days to come see us in Las Vegas, we'll be filming at MJ Biz this year. And if we get rescheduling announced, it'll be the first time probably since I've been in the industry, how there just be positive sentiment across everything, because
it'll be huge. It'll be the 50 years of nonsense erased.
I know.
It'll be the biggest thing that happens in this industry.
Yeah.
Period.
Maybe not a party at the Las Vegas Country Club. I will tell you that.
Yeah. It will be massive.
That was fun last year.
Considering the shenanigans that we've put up with for decades and years now.
Met so many people there. Saw Charlie from Cresco. Yeah. Met Raj Grover. We talked to him, I don't know how many times, interviewed him virtually. Finally saw him in person. Man, that guy's got great energy. You had a lot of great people there. And
he was taller than I thought too in person.
Very, very much. He's like 6 feet. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever seen, going back to sports, Jerry Jones. Have you guys seen him in person ever?
I have. I saw him at the Wynn. He's about 6'6".
He's that tall. I didn't think he was 6'6", but he's tall.
In my head, he's 3'4".
Yeah.
Jerry Jones.
Did you have that in your bingo card last night? 40-40 tie between Green Bay
I had nothing of the sort.
Well, I can tell you right now, Green Bay looked like the team to beat in the NFC after 2 weeks, but nope, they're the same.
Well, we got the you're forgetting we got the shit bowl tonight in Miami with the Dolphins and Jets. The two battle for a top 3 pick.
You a baseball fan at all, Michael, or no?
I love baseball.
Who's your team?
It's the Phillies.
I
already sort of gave a lead on, when I told you I was an Eagles fan, I tipped my hand.
I have them as winning it all. How do you like my Tigers? 10-game lead with 16 games to go. They end up getting in, but how do you lose 10 games up with 16 games to go? They'll be done 2 games after Cleveland.
I'm sorry for the Mets fans out there.
Howard, they missed the playoffs?
I even feel bad about that.
I text Howard Schachter, Chief Communications Officer over at MaryMed yesterday, and I go, what the WTF Mets? And his response was fucking embarrassing. So he's a dire.
I bet you that stupid ball isn't smiling anymore.
Yeah. Anthony, you know, also is a big Mets fan is Tim Seymour. I'm sure he's.
He is. He's a huge Mets fan.
Yeah.
He's a huge Mets fan.
I
don't even watch baseball.
Missing the playoffs. I didn't even know that was a thing for the Mets with their payroll.
Yeah.
Brian, go Rockies. Did they finish the worst record ever? 43 games, something like that. Randall Cunningham writes, Caveman, I love the Eagles since Randall Cunningham. That guy, I don't know if anybody could throw a ball. Him or John Elway could throw the ball. Like that guy could throw the ball 80 yards.
Mike Vick,
too. But he had an arm. Yeah. And you know, it was
crazy. Randall Cunningham invented Mike Vick, though. Like, Mike Vick without Randall Cunningham.
I would say that Warren Moon might have been one of the first.
Yeah, he was great. Warren Moon.
I was at the Benzenga event when the NFL draft came to Detroit a couple years ago. So they had Calvin Johnson, a lot of cannabis guys, and we went to this event afterwards, and we went to some bar that was like
he's a huge individual.
Calvin
Johnson. Yeah.
Super nice guy.
I shook his hand and it was just like enveloping.
So I'm going into this bar. It's an old building in downtown Detroit, must be 100 years old. And I'm trying to I don't drink. I'm just trying to get a club soda. I'm walking by this guy with this beautiful yellow jacket on, and it was a Hall of Fame jacket. And I turn around and it's Warren fucking Moon. And I'm just like, what is this guy doing here in the middle of a bar with his Hall of Fame jacket on? But regardless, he didn't care. What a great time that was. Record crowds for 3 days straight, Detroit at the draft. But anyway, hopefully the Lions and Eagles see each other in the NFC Championship this year. Awesome. That'd be a hell of a battle. Listen, great atmosphere here today. Great comments. Again, thanks to everybody. And Michael, let's keep in touch, and we'll keep you updated, and you can keep us updated on anything you hear, and we'll see you back here next Monday. Okay, sir?
Looking forward to it.
All right. Mike. Thanks, Michael. Yeah, it's a great show. A lot of great comments. And
everybody's in a good mood when stocks are going up 50% a day. You're not going to find anybody in a bad mood except for people like Alan Brockstein that shorted Tilray at $1.06.
Well, when you look at the sentiment even a month ago, towards the end of August, it was pretty positive, especially after that announcement that Trump had said that we'll have a decision, in the next few weeks. What was Tilray trading at?
The problem, Tilray's like $1.78.
Right.
I think it
So
closed.
how significant and meaning?
$1.85. The problem was the market got way ahead of itself on the backs of those Trump comments on that Monday afternoon. And I mean, we rocketed and then gravity set in and we started to consolidate and go down. We didn't go back down to 250, but we got back down to like the mid fours. And people started to be like, all right, it's same shit, different day, which is understandable. But I mean, we ran hot.
Yeah.
For like 2 or 3 weeks.
But did we ever see a day like we had today, as far as like a month ago?
The single day move right now is the biggest single day move in a very long time.
Yeah, it's great.
MSOX finished the day 52% up.
Yeah.
I've seen MSOX up 60 something percent intraday when the HHS report was announced and when the HHS report was redacted. But no. 52% in a day is a big move.
Simon, you're being a little conservative with going with 50,000 calls on Tilray tomorrow. But yeah, you can see the excitement. We've been sitting here a long time. A lot of people have been saying, like, how big is this? And I'm like, you can't put it into words that if you get reform of this magnitude and size, we've been waiting for this announcement for 5+ years. And
it will be this big. It's not.
I know what
yet.
I'm looking at. I have no idea. Like people say, oh, you could see, I don't want to give price numbers on what things will move, but some of the numbers I've heard, I'm not going to say what they are.
Leave that to ATB. ATB had a great chart on what price targets should look like with 280E, without 280E, and the numbers look nice. As far as people's expectations on price and stock, it's not something I really like to talk about.
One of these things about this industry is nothing makes sense. And when Canopy raced out to what, $75 and really had like, this is what's at stake, and this industry still performs that way. One thing that hasn't changed is the cannabis industry trades on news. That's it. It's
keep in mind, I mean, we could be looking at a government shutdown and there could be silence on this front for the next month. And then we're going to be sitting here saying the same stuff in 2 weeks, that prices are retracing, that's now stagnant again, yada, yada, yada. He could also announce rescheduling tomorrow, for all we know. But it's a waiting game.
Marcus Smith writes, go Dodgers, Shad. You Dodgers fan? Man, what a team they have. But what happened to them this year? It just feels like that's a team that should have probably won 125 games based on that lineup. I don't know if they dealt with a lot of injuries, but love Clayton Kershaw. And with the jersey off last year, and they won it all, just crush and bruise with the beer gut. And anyway, he announced that he's retiring. But all in all, good day. Thanks again for everybody. And big takeaway here today is that does Trump basically make an announcement sooner rather than later? Again, don't know the timeline, but if you read the tea leaves here, why would you basically endorse a lot of ways, put that on your platform, build off of this momentum? So do I think it's going to happen at some point here in 2025? I do. Whether it happens in October or November, doesn't matter. As long as it happens here in the fall, that would be great. So take that for what you will. Hope everybody enjoys their day. What a great day it was for the trading space, the cannabis space. So make sure you come back here on Wednesday. We'll keep you guys all updated as to who we're going to have on and talk more about this sentiment. Let's see if it sustains itself for these next couple of days. AV, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thanks, everybody. And a big thanks again to all the people that support us and the super chats today. Greatly appreciate it. And check us out tomorrow morning, TDR Cannabis and 5. I'll have a full recap of that video that was posted and some of the key takeaways that you should watch. In the meantime, see you in the next video. See you in our next live stream. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
So what'd you think of all that information? Some interesting stuff that we just learned once again here at the TDR Trade to Black podcast. Let's keep the conversation going. So leave your comments below. We'd love to get your feedback. As usual, if you have time, make sure to like, subscribe, and smash on that bell for all notifications. And stay connected with us here at the Trade to Black podcast. Thanks for watching, everyone.